My day job is working with the Marine Corps, with our special operators, and with the FBI to help them understand the ideology of jihadi groups, to get inside the mind of the bad guys. And I think one of the reasons that I'm in an unusual position to be able to do that is because of the experience of my family under communism. So my parents lived in Hungary during the communist dictatorship of the Rákosi era. And my father was actually responsible for creating a secret Christian Catholic underground organization at university to push back on the communist takeover of his beloved Hungary. Unfortunately, his organization was feeding intelligence to the West and to MI6, and their reports were landing on the desk of one Kim Philby. So after a few months of undermining the Soviets and helping to stop the spread of communism, my father and all his friends were betrayed from London. As a result, at the age of 20, my father got a life sentence in a communist prison, starting with 2 years in solitary and 2 years down a coal mine after that. And this is the story with which I open my book. And my father being liberated from a communist political prison by the revolutionaries of 1956, escaping across the minefields into Austria, and then finally making their way out to the West. My father didn't know he'd been betrayed from inside MI6, so when they asked him at the refugee camp, where do you want to go? He said the United Kingdom. So that's how they ended up in the UK, and how I was born a British citizen and eventually moved to Hungary after the fall of communism. But now I'm a very proud American citizen. I grew up with the mother's milk of freedom and democracy just instilled in me from day one. Because my father escaped from a communist dictatorship, from a prison in a communist dictatorship, I understood, before I could walk, the fragility of liberty, the importance of liberty, and how fragile it is, and how Ronald Reagan was absolutely correct that the loss of liberty is always just one generation away. When I saw those two planes fly into the twin towers of the World Trade Center, I viscerally understood that the totalitarians are back. And if you read the works that inform groups like ISIS or Al-Qaeda, it is clear that America is once again facing a global totalitarian ideology. It is no accident that key jihadi authors, the ones I detail in the book, if you really want to understand the enemy, you must read the key strategists of jihad. And one of the most influential, the story really begins with him, is an Egyptian called Syed Qutb. Q-U-T-B, Syed Qutb. He's the most important jihadi thinker of the Ikhwan Muslimin, the Muslim Brotherhood. His seminal work called Milestones, is a very, very strange concatenation, a mixture of fascism, of communism, all wrapped up in the religion of Islam. And it's these people you must read and understand if you wish to understand the threat to America and why it truly is an existential threat. These people will not be negotiated with. Anybody who thinks you can sit down with either the Taliban or Al-Qaeda or ISIS and negotiate about your future, they are living in an Alice in Wonderland fantasy. The only thing you can negotiate with a jihadi with or about is how you will be killed. Will you be decapitated, burnt alive, or crucified? Or will you be enslaved as a subhuman, as a person who is not recognized as a human being because you're not a Muslim? That's the reality. It is completely analogous with attempting to negotiate with Hitler. It doesn't work. You can negotiate with a fascist about which oven they're going to put you in. That's about the extent of the negotiations. And we are again in this world. The rest of the book is, beyond this recognition that the new totalitarians have arrived, is my game plan on how to defeat them. And it starts with the lessons of Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu said that if you wish to win a war, you must know yourself and you must know your enemy. We do not know our enemy. We have political correctness out of control. But now it has reached cataclysmic proportions. When the White House, in an unclassified memo 5 years ago, banned the discussion of religion in counterterrorism training for the FBI or for our military, even saying that the word jihad was prohibited, we entered a new age in which it would become impossible to effectively win this war. For as a student of mine at National Defense University stated in his dissertation, and he will go unnamed, when the enemy gets to control what you're allowed to say about them, you've already lost the war. And that's where we are today. When a man in traditional Arabic dress runs at a peace officer's cruiser in Philadelphia, pumps the whole mag of his Glock semi-automatic through the window at that policeman, and afterwards says, "This is for the glory of God, for Allah," and the mayor of Philadelphia says, "It's just a crime. It's got nothing to do with religion," then we are living in a Monty Python fantasy absurdity. The fact is, you can only defeat an enemy if you understand them on their own terms. And when they say they are jihadi, fighting for Allah, you do not get to wipe that out of your threat assessment. If you do that, you are censoring the intelligence cycle. It would be as if somebody had said, as we're preparing to storm the Normandy beaches, if somebody in America had said during World War II, "Look guys, I know you've prepped your parachute, your rifle is ready, but whatever you do, when you land, don't mention the word Nazi, because you could offend a German." That's the absurdity of the current situation we're living in, and it has to stop. So, I use as my template the template that was incredibly successful during the Cold War against a totalitarian ideology, a Cold War, with two seminal documents, two secret documents that have since been declassified, and I use these as the starting point for my strategy against ISIS and other jihadists. The first one is the now famous long telegram, George Kennan's secret telegram, the 14-page missive he sent from Moscow to Washington in 1946, that explained who is the Soviet Union. That document was the enemy threat doctrine analysis, put in military terms, the personality of the Soviet Union, that made it very clear that this nation and its allies are motivated by an ideology that will not stop unless we are destroyed and enslaved. And that is why the Soviet Union is an existential threat to America and her Western allies. How did we go beyond the analysis of who the enemy is? Well, the incredible Paul Nitze was tasked by the Truman administration to write the plan on how to defeat the Soviets. In the document National Security Council 68, NSC 68, he wrote a 60-page plan on how to defeat the Soviet Union from the outside and how to defeat it from the inside by delegitimizing its ideology of the workers' paradise. That document was unlike any government document I have ever seen. Let me just read to you, if I may, one short segment from the very beginning of NSC 68. In the book Defeating Jihad, I actually reproduce both of those now declassified documents in their entirety at the back of the book, so you can read them. And ask yourself a question. When I read these words to you from a formerly top secret government strategy, ask yourself how many times you hear language like this today in unclassified government documents, in presidential statements from the Rose Garden. Tell me if we talk like this anymore. The fundamental purpose of the United States is laid down in the preamble to the Constitution. Quote, "To form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity." In essence, the fundamental purpose is to assure the integrity and vitality of our free society, which is founded upon the dignity and the worth of the individual. Do we have government documents that talk about the dignity and the worth of the individuals, the blessings of liberty? We understood back then what the founding fathers built this nation upon, and we need to reinvigorate and remind ourselves that today it is organizations like ISIS or Al-Qaeda that deny these fundamental truths and are therefore an existential threat to the United States.